is item number C, report on the 2016-17 budget. Dr. Burns.
Right, thank you, Mr. Matthews. Members of the board, as you know, and for the audience benefit, you know, we work on the budget as soon as we finish a budget. We start working on a budget. So you've had lots of information about 16, 17, and tonight kind of as a comprehensive way of looking at all that and bringing to you what we're recommending for 16, 17 in a report. Obviously, there's some more steps to go after that. But, you know, the budget process is a little bit arduous in school districts, especially with the state of funding. But I have to compliment our staff and their diligence in making sure that we have a budget that is aligned with our goal and aligned with our objectives. And we want to continue to use our resources to reach our goal. And that's why we bring you a budget solely for that purpose, so that we can reach our goal of high achievement for each student. So, Ms. Tillman, I'll turn it over to you, or Mr. Roderick. Or
Scott.
Scott's going to go first. All right, Mr. Roderick, you're up.
Okay. We wanted to start off with a quote. The quality of an organization cannot exceed the quality of its people. We wanted to revisit our 2016-17 budget priorities. Our number one priority identified by the Board of Trustees, our principals, and our District Improvement Council is compensation. Part of that, we wanted to stay competitive in the marketplace. We wanted to continue our longevity pay as well as our performance pay, which is related to our ranking, our ERG ranking. This is our new teacher starting salary. With our 3.5% raise, we haven't changed our ranking, but we have kept pace with our surrounding districts. The raises ranged from 2% to 3.5%. The district of note is Irving ISD. Their compensation package is contingent on their TRE passing. For 15-16, we adopted a $6.9 million deficit. Our projected 15-16 deficit is still trending between $2 million and $4.8 million. We think the $4.8 million is a worst-case scenario. The biggest unknown status at this time is our 2013 TEA property tax audit. As of today, TEA hasn't processed the payment, which would yield approximately $1.9 in additional revenue. This slide represents our 2014-15 total revenue expense per students. We are using 14-15 data because this is the most current for comparison purposes. This includes all funds except capital and debt service. As you can see, CFB spends approximately $87.29 per student. Other DFW area schools average $87.40. Dallas County schools average $88,818. Region 10 schools average approximately a little over $9,000 per student. Denton County schools spend an average of $91.65. Other notable counties throughout the state of Texas is Bexar County, which in the San Antonio area spends approximately $10,179 per student. El Paso spends $96.39 per student, and Harris County, which is the Houston area, spends $92.68 per student. This represents how the 14-15 CFB dollar is spent on a student. This includes our general fund and our student nutrition funds. It excludes functions such as TIF, construction, government services, government charges, juvenile justice, and community support. Out of every dollar CFB spends, we spend 59 cents on direct instructions. There are no other areas that exceed 10 cents per dollar spent. Looking at our 2016-17 budget, on July 25th, we received our certified values, which help us finalize our revenue estimates. Our first column represents a budget with no TRE. This scenario is estimating a $13.865 million deficit. The second column represents a proposed TRE. With adopting a $1.17 tax rate, our tax revenues would be at $209 million, or $22.9 million increase without a TRE. On the general operations side, this generates an increase of approximately a little over $3 million. This is TRE-generated funds that would be held contingent upon a successful election. As mentioned before, adopting a $1.17 would trigger a recapture payment. This payment would be about $5.7 million. And with a TRE, we would be proposing a balanced budget for 16-17. This is a slide that compares the general fund major object codes from our 2015-16 budget to our 2016-17 TRE proposed budget. As you can see, the $8.7 million payroll increase is due to our board-approved raise, our longevity pay, our performance pay, as well as our previously mentioned TRE generated funds that will be held contingent upon a successful election. Our tax increment zone payment increased $3.2 million because of the value increase in our TIF zones. And our recapture and a $1.17 would also generate a $5.7 million recapture payment. This slide represents fund balance without a TRE. For 15-16, we would be estimating that the district would realize a $2 million deficit. For 2017, we would be representing a worst-case scenario of $13.8 million. At this point, at 105 days of fund balance, we would be approaching our minimum comfort level in fund balance at this point. This is a scenario with general fund balance with a successful TRE. Again, our 2016, we would be assuming we'd realize a $2 million deficit. And for 17, we would end the year with a balanced budget. Even though the fund balance is the same for 2017, the days of operation goes down by 6 days because of the expenditures per day we're dividing by in 2017 has increased. Ms. Tillman will now talk about our proposed tax rate.
Thank you. Our tax rate is made up of two components. We have the maintenance and operation piece, as well as the interest and sinking fund piece. The maintenance and operation goes towards our general fund operating costs. The INS part must be spent on bond debt payments each year. This year, we are proposing consideration of an M&O rate of $1.17, an INS rate of $22.17, for a total rate of $1.3917. This is a net increase of 11 pennies. This tax rate would trigger a tax ratification election or a TRE. The purpose of a TRE is to permit the registered voters of the district to determine whether to approve the tax rate adopted by the board. In looking at CFB's historical tax rate, going back to 2005-06, this was the year prior to the state mandated compression, where the majority of the districts were at $1.50. We were required to compress our M&O rate over a 2-year period. In the first year, all districts that were at $1.50 went down to $1.35 for M&O, and then the following year, we were required to compress down to $1 with the option to take the additional 4 cents without voter approval, which is what the majority of districts did. From that point, we've been at $1.04 on M&O. You can see on the INS side that we've gradually made reduction there all the way down to $28.17. This is just a look at the districts that we monitor and that we compete against with teachers and their tax rate from 2007-08 to 2015-16. On these districts, you can see in 07-08, our tax rate was in the middle of the pack. And as we go down, ours is the larger red line. You can see in 15-16, we dropped to the bottom of this pack in terms of our total tax rate. If we look just specifically at 2015-16, CFB is the first bar on the left at $1.28. If you look at the next 4 districts, those districts have all not held a TRE yet. However, their rate is higher than ours. Starting with the $1.44, that is Capel. They held a TRE in 2010. Plano is next with the TRE in 2013. Irving is the next at $1.45. They have proposed a TRE Frisco is at $1.46 in 2015. They have also proposed a TRE. Louisville at $1.48. They had a failed TRE in 2010. And then we have Allen at $1.61 with a TRE in 2011. In looking at 2016-17 rates, we were not able to gain the rates from all of the individuals that we normally monitor. However, we did have Richardson at a rate of $1.39, which would be what we would be at with the TRE. We have Plano at $1.44, Irving $1.45, Frisco at $1.59 with an improved TRE. As we look at just the DFW area, we looked at the average for 4 counties, including Dallas, Denton, Tarrant, and Collin. The average for 2015 was $1.4738. You can see we were well below that average at our $1.2817. Even with the TRE, we would be well below the prior year average. I suspect with the number of TREs that are scheduled that average of $1.4738 will be going up for 2016. If we look at tax rates for just Dallas and Denton County, we added the students being served in terms of low income. You can see on this, we are the red circled dot in between 60 and 70% on our low income and at $1.28. The only other district that has a higher percentage of low income students being served with a tax rate close to us would be at Dallas ISD, and their rate is slightly above ours at $1.2829. If you look at the far left-hand side up, you can see many districts serving much smaller populations of low-income students with a much higher tax rate. The tax rate impact from a tax ratification election, we calculated on a taxable value of $200,000. So on a homesteaded home, this would be a $225,000 market value with a $25,000 homestead. The tax on that from the TRE would add $220 a year to the tax bill, $18 a month, or 60 cents a day. Tax ratification election history through 2015, you can see that 542 elections have been held with 406 successful. You can see in the last couple of years the success rate has improved for TREs. Texas schools by rate. There are currently 412 districts with an M&O rate above $1.04. If you look at $1.17, which is the maximum, there's 329 districts at $1.17. And if you look at districts at $1.04, there was still 534 or 52% of districts at $1.04. This is one of the reasons why the Supreme Court ruling wasn't particularly in the favor of districts, because they felt like districts still had meaningful discretion to access more funds. If we look just at DFW again, looking at 69 districts within DFW, 90% had a rate above ours in 2015. Only 6 had a rate lower than ours, and those 6 are very, very small districts. In looking at DFW for districts with a rate above $1.04, it is closer to 52% in the area have a rate in excess of $1.04. We've tried to track who all has proposed and or called elections for 2016. You can see from this list there's approximately 32 districts at this point that we're aware of. After preparing this, 3 more came out in the news recently, including Dallas ISD and Plainview. Some districts of note are large compared to us. We have Irving, we have Frisco, Midland, and Lubbock on the list as well, districts comparable in size. And we wanted to show you, we looked at districts in our area and tax rates to help show why our tax rate is one of the lowest in DFW. From this, you can see we haven't gone to our voters since 2003 for either a bond or additional resources through TRE. These other districts have gone multiple times, either through both bonds or TRE combinations. So this has given us the ability to keep our tax rate low. However, at some point, it does begin to impact your facilities and your abilities to improve instruction. We did receive our certified values on July 25th. Our rates were up approximately 7.8% from the prior year. So that enabled us to do our truth in taxation calculations and prepare our notices as required by law. We plan on holding our public meeting and consider our budget for adoption as well as our tax rate adoption on August 18th. If on August 18th, the board decides that they do not want to adopt the tax rate proposed that would trigger an election, we would then have to begin making adjustments September 1. We believe we would want to start looking at ways to reduce our deficit going into 16-17 as well as preparing for 17-18. Staffing decisions have been made, and we know that over 80% of our budget is staffing, so we have limited options there, but we do have other areas we would look at to try to keep our deficit down. In terms of what we would be looking at going into 17-18, we would be targeting approximately $15 million, and just to give you an idea of what that looks like, that's approximately 300 positions or 10% of our workforce. If on August 18th, the board adopts the proposed tax rate, that then triggers a TRE, which would give the voters the opportunity to decide on November 8th if we want to invest more in CFB, then we would continue to move forward with our Vision 2020 plans and continue to focus on high achievement for each student. We know our budget process is a very long process. We start in January and with our resource allocation work study with the board in February, and we continue working with staffing, and many decisions are made throughout the year to get to the point we're at this evening. We hope that we've provided you with enough information over this time period for you to be able to make a decision on August 18th. If there is any information that you feel like you would like to have, don't hesitate to give me a call or email me, and we'll get that information, if possible, to you prior to the August 18th meeting. At this point, we are concluding our presentation.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Tillman. Members of the board and for the public, I want to commend this board's work over the last few years, because I think you've done everything possible to make sure that we can provide the best education to our students with minimal impact on our taxpayers. And as we all sat back at Region 10 in the fall last year, and every district in Region 10 said the #1 priority is school funding, and so this next legislative session will obviously bring that forward, but the court case certainly gave us some information about where the state's headed, and that is if local districts don't exercise their own option to increase the revenue, then they're not willing to look at it. And we've said all along, it's not if you do one, it's when you do one. And we wouldn't bring this to you for consideration if we didn't think it was time, so that our district doesn't suffer, and that our taxpayers make the decision. They get to decide whether or not this is what they want to do. But I think they need to know how hard this board has worked in the past to keep that from happening until it absolutely needed to happen. So with that said, I'll open up for any questions.
Board members, any questions? Ms. Klein?
Is there a way you could make this presentation available for us to review before the August 18th board meeting?
Yes, ma'am. We will send that to you so you can see the whole thing. Also, in addition, just kind of timely, all our school board members belong to Texas Association of School Boards, and the July issue of the Lone Star has a great article in it by the Perriman Group on that we must invest in education, and the state of Texas is missing the boat. And he cites a study in there about the cost benefits of education. We've included that for you tonight in your book as well, so you can read that complete study that Dr. Perriman talks about. But in the article, he really impresses on people to understand that investing in education is actually a return on your economy, not a drain on your economy. And so the study is pretty thorough. We'll also put out for our public the presentation that Ms. Tillman has done, as well as make this available to the public to read as well, because I think it's very helpful when you look at it in terms of what education can do for your community and your economy when you invest in it. So,
Mr. Shackman?
Tillman, thanks for a lot of good hard work. A couple of things that I'd like to see as soon as we can get it out. I would very much like to see a list of specific items that we have cut back or eliminated in the last 5 years and what we've saved with that. It seems to me that we just keep growing. I don't see a lot of cuts, and I may be mistaken, because I'd just love to see them. Secondly, how much, we're talking about approximately, I'm doing the math in my head, about an 8% tax increase if we ask for the 11 cents?
Yes.
Okay, now my assessments at the house have gone up 24% in the last 3 years, and that's pretty much consistent across the district. I think I heard you say it was 7.8. So everybody's getting a between 7 and 8% tax increase this year. They've had a 25% in the last 3 years, and now we're talking about sticking with another, so that's 35% in the last 3 years. So I guess one of my questions is, how much is enough?
Well, unfortunately, with the state funding system, if we were able to keep that value increase in the district, we wouldn't be asking for a tax ratification election. But we are losing over $11 million this year from property value growth from the prior year. So we're getting basically no benefit on the general fund side, for the most part, for that increase. So it's really a matter of, hopefully, our taxpayers will pay attention to the legislators they're electing and making sure they understand how that's impacting school districts when a funding system doesn't provide them with the tax revenue from their areas when their values do go up.
And what is probably the single, I know we say, well, 80% is salary. What's the largest percent in our salary base that's gone up the most? Is it teachers?
I haven't looked at
Is
it
it-
by,
Because
would
the
be by
numbers that
far.
the numbers that I've seen in the last 3 years is we have an awful lot of people that are not teachers, they're coaches, they're leaders, they're a number of different places. And according to our budget, their average salaries are between $60,000 and $65,000 a year, which is significantly above an average teacher. And that number has gone up dramatically faster than any other part of the district. And it seems to me that we're spending money outside of classrooms instead of spending money inside classrooms. And we're now asking the taxpayers to foot the bill for more administrative leadership. Not administration, but various types of leadership. So I'm concerned about that. I'd love to see us put together something that will give us some information about what reductions we have made that has significantly improved our expenses. And secondly, what aspect or part of our budget has grown the fastest? And I think those are questions that our community is going to want to hear.
Yes, and Ms. Tillman and Mr. Shagman, you're right on with, asking the hard questions is what helps us be better and be prepared to tell our community while we're doing this. I think that I would tell you that everyone in this district is committed to instruction. So whether they're in the classroom or not, their goal is instruction, and they're in some way designed to help and support that. And we know that about developing organizations. You have people that help develop the people that are in the classroom. And so there's a variety of strategies to do that at scale that is much cheaper than trying to do that with which we would love to do, is lower that classroom size even lower.
Sure.
And the other thing I want to say is that, we've got the lowest tax rate in the DFW area, and we have made those cuts, and I'll just tell you as your CEO and the superintendent, I don't think there's anything more we can cut and continue to still have the kind of achievement that we all want and that we expect and we think our kids deserve in this school district. And so we can tell you what we've done to reduce and be more efficient, but I have to tell you, I don't think there's anywhere else we could cut, or we would have done it, and we would not be asking you for this, and then to ultimately ask our community if they are willing and want to invest in our students' education. But I want to tell you on behalf of our staff, we appreciate you and the questions of this board, because that makes us better at what we do to have that information. So thank you, and continue to challenge us to be able to justify and give evidence of what we're doing, because we do owe it to our community and our taxpayers. So I just want to say that we appreciate the feedback on that, so we can continue to be both clear and passionate about what we do and why we do it. So thank you.
Well, we certainly want the education for our kids to be the best it can be, and I think we all certainly share that goal. And wouldn't it be nice if we had unlimited funds?
Any other questions, board member? Yeah, I got one. So, did I hear you correctly when you said that if we pass the TRE, we're looking for 15 million extra dollars?
If we don't,
I mean, if we do.
if we do, it will generate 22 million in taxes about, and then we'll be sending back about 5 to the state, 5.7 to the state.
Board members, last spring, when we had resource allocation, when we did the work study, I brought up the idea of, taking a look at currently what we're spending our monies on, such as food services and maintenance. I still think that we can save money by outsourcing those different areas, such as Louisville ISD has outsourced their food services, Houston ISD, and they save considerably amounts of monies. And so that's the reason why I asked the question, what are we really looking for to provide adequate funding for our education? Because I think that we should have went there first to evaluate what we're doing, take a look at our departments and see, and getting some proposals to see what exactly our district would save by outsourcing. Our key function here in the district is educating kids. And so, first and foremost, we need teachers, quality teachers, educating our kids, because they're at ground zero. And so our key function is educating kids. And so our other functions, such as food services, maintenance, and/or security, how much would that save us? I mean, I think we should have did our due diligence in going out and engaging these companies that do these services, because now we're talking about going to the public and asking the public to say, hey, we're trying to ask for a tax ratification election, without even going back and taking a look at internally how much money we could save if we were to outsource. That's a pretty hard pill to swallow, in my estimation.
Yeah, Mr. Fleming, again, thank you for your comments as well, and we certainly do take that feedback and we do listen, and I think you all maybe heard me say this before, but as the CEO and the superintendent, I believe that those parts of our district are vital for our student learning, because they're a part of our team. And I can't find any research anywhere where outsourcing increases achievement. I think having them a part of our team, being a part of our team, their kids go to our schools, they're invested in what we do, they're committed to what we do, and it's about quality, not about cost in terms of that. And our service people, from maintenance to cafeteria, they're the hardest working, most dedicated people you'll find anywhere. And so I believe strongly in them, and I will continue to support the fact that I believe what we're doing with that piece of our organization is vital to it, and that I'm not in favor of outsourcing. And I know that maybe that might be a way to save a few dollars, but I don't think it's the way to save for quality. So I appreciate that, and we'll continue to find ways to do that, but I'm committed, we are committed to all our staff as they are committed to us. And you guys go to those banquets for our service people, and they are dedicated and committed to whatever they can do for this school district. And we appreciate that.
Can I add one thing to that as well? With our food service department, they're a little bit unique because they are self-sustaining, and so they're very aware of their impact on the district. And when they had a year where they did spend out of their fund balance, not the general fund, the director made immediate adjustments to the program, and the next year she was able to put money back in. So with food service, they're not actually impacting the 13.8 million. They're completely separate and very aware that they need to be running a self-sustaining operation, and they do that along with our After the Bell program, who maintains their own operations as well. After your recommendations, Mr. Hibbs did contact other districts, and we looked at options, and one of the things that he's been exploring that we'll be presenting is some efficiencies in terms of our environmental controls, and looking at ways that we can make some adjustments to bring some of our utility costs down. So we have been exploring that option, and we think that we can implement a plan in 16-17 and potentially reduce our electrical use by approximately $300,000, but we're still working on those items. So we do have some small, they're small, but they are big dollars in the works to make some impact going forward.
I do have a question. With the additional revenue that would be generated, would any of that be allocated towards teachers' salaries to help bridge that gap? Because even with the increase that we've done, it seems like we've not gained any ground or lost any ground. Would any of that go to affect that to help close that ground?
It would help us going forward into our planning for 17-18 and keep our fund balance at a healthy level to where we could keep making the adjustments. We fell behind because we were giving smaller raises, and in 1 year we didn't give a raise at all. And so it's going to take, 4 to 5 years to really impact that, because we were under, 0.5% to 1% every year of the raise that we were giving, because we were giving the minimum amount every year. When other districts were giving 3%, we were given 1.5%. So it's not something we're going to make ground on over 1 year, but without it, we're definitely going to start losing more ground.
Okay.
And Mr. Ramos, again, thank you for that question, because that is our priority with the revenue, is to invest in our people. You saw we began with that quote, "The quality of the organization cannot exceed the quality of people." What we do is the same most places. Who we do it with is the most important thing. And so that is our priority. It's the board's priority identified in the past, is to address compensation and, both reward and keep our people for the great job that they do. And so that's what we would pledge to do for you in this board, is we would use those resources to continue to make headways in compensation for our staff.
Ms. Klein?
Can you put the schedule back up that you had up? I was just hoping you'd kind of go over the time frame again of
This one, or
the August 18th. And then,
did I already pass it? So our notice is required to be posted by August 7th, and we plan on putting it in the paper tomorrow to meet that deadline. Our hearing would be on August 18th. At that hearing, if the board chose to adopt the tax rate proposed, we would be after the date that allows you to have an election off the uniform election date. So we would be required to have our election on November 8th. The notice posts the maximum tax rate that you all could adopt, but you can adopt a rate lower than what's in the paper. We would not have to repost and have another hearing.
okay. And then my other question is, on August 18th or sometime in the future, could someone explain to me the article in the Dallas Morning News about Dallas County schools and the buses and what impact that might have on us long-term? I don't think it can do anything until the next legislative session, correct?
Right.
So it's not immediate, but I see Louisville ISD struggling with their bus situation. And I wonder, what in the world, I know I hate to use the word subsidized, but we're assisted some by Dallas County Schools in their ability to provide the buses for our school district, so.
Yes, we are 100% outsourced on our transportation right now. However, Dallas County School they are able to submit our mileage to the state, so they get mileage reimbursement, as well as the 1 penny that they tax for Dallas County is distributed among all of the groups that participate. And so those two pieces are the pieces that help with their ability to be more efficient than the district would be in providing those services ourselves directly. But we have we are going to be scheduling a meeting. They were in Austin when we called, so that we can talk with them about their long-term plans.
Thank you. And I don't know what the total magnitude of that discussion is. I'm just curious because it's an interesting conversation that I think we benefit from the organization, but it's an interesting political conversation.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, us spending some time on the impact of that, positive or negative, is certainly worth the time. And as soon as we know more, then we'll inform the board as well. As Ms. Tillman said, I do think there's some movement in the legislature to address the Dallas County school system, and some interest in moving it to the service centers. And so we should really know what that means in terms of either cost increased or cost savings. It could be, who knows? So,
Another one of those curiosity questions. There was an article in the paper, and it was not very explanatory. It was talking about Irving's TRE, and they are asking, it gave the impression, and so I'm curious to know what we've heard. It gave the impression that they're asking for the TRE, 11 cents, I'll use that number, whatever, but that they're doing something with their INS and they're able to reduce their INS budget. So the net effect is they're gaining more money for general operations. The taxpayers approve an increase, but aren't actually going to get an increase because of the INS.
They're in a much different situation than us in terms of property wealth. They're below, more than likely, they're below the first level that I talked with you about, which means they get a significant amount of Tier 2 funding from the state. So for each one of those pennies, the state takes them up to that level. For us, we're already over that level, so we don't generate additional Tier 2 funding from the state. So what they're saying is that the $10 million in Tier 2 funding they will generate will offset their reduction in their INS rate. And I'm suspecting then they're going to use those funds to make, because their debt payment will still be the same. They're going to have to make their debt payment. It would come out of that additional Tier 2 state funding. But for us, we don't have that benefit.
Sounded too good to be true.
Yeah. If you're a
Maybe.
property poor district, it does
Yeah.
work in your favor
Okay.
in that situation.
Yeah.
Board members, any other questions, comments?
I would just invite our audience to attend August 18th for the spellbinding conclusion of this conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tillman.